Good afternoon and welcome to Driven Women TV. I am Marie Younger Blackburn. I am the visionary and event planner for Cape Cod's Conference for Women and your host for Driven Women TV. Driven Women TV was created for the purposes of furthering the mission and the vision of Cape Cod's Conference for Women, to bring women together under one roof and share useful and relevant information that they can use to go out and be the change in their own community. Today I am delighted to have my guest, Nicole Peterkin. Nicole is an author, a speaker, and a financial planner, and she is with NicolePeterkin.com. So today we're going to have a candid and frank conversation with her about her book. I love the title. It's called If You Love Your Family, Save Like It. The title alone to me just grabbed me and intrigued me, and I just wanted to know more. And then when I did open it up and read it, it really gave me a level of conviction, actually. So I think it did what you intended it for it to do. Correct, Nicole?
Yeah.
Can you just introduce yourself and tell the audience about your background, your education, where you come from?
Sure. So I think I'm a little unique in that I never thought that I was going to go into any type of financial advising or financial arena when it came to my future and my career. In my family, everyone is pretty much a doctor, lawyer, engineer, nurse. So naturally, I thought those were my only options. And I thought my entire life that I was going to be a doctor. So I was studying pre-med at BU, thinking about doing business maybe as a backup, maybe as a side thing. So if down the line I didn't want to be in scrubs anymore, I could fall back on that, do hospital administration. And then my dad passed away. So that pretty much changed everything for me. And my experience with my dad passing gave me a real passion for like financial education. And that's what pushed me into, getting a business background, studying corporate finance. I spent a little bit of time at a corporate bank and then decided that I wanted to go out and, have a practice helping people with their finances. So my book kind of came out of that, came out of my evolution as an advisor, and I'm really happy with it. I really love being able to marry like my personal experience with what I get to do every day.
Sure, and we are too. It's really intriguing book. A lot of our core values come from our experiences, and what I meant to say is sometimes our career choices come from our core values and our experiences. And I think just reading some of the book and knowing a little bit about your dad and your family, it doesn't seem like such a stretch to me to for you to have chosen financial services to get into, and just reading something about your personality and your value system. I think it lines up. I just wanted to mention that Nicole is our breakfast sponsor for Cape Cod's Conference for Women, and we're really happy about that because part of my mission was to drive the economy and to drive women and men over the bridge at a time of year when Cape Cod's often forgotten. And I think having you on, being from Boston and Boston area, really fulfills that goal, that you would find us on LinkedIn and contact us and say, I want to sponsor this event, and really just go for it. And to me, that reading your book and having that conversation was really reflective on your ability to take risks, to do some research, to get some background, but then act on it and take risk. And that's what I want to see really here on Cape Cod, that people would see the success of Cape Cod's Conference for Women and say, yeah, that's something I really want to get behind, because it's a win-win for all of us. So back to your book, I just want you to share, can you share with the audience more about your upbringing and the story of your father, because I think that really leads to your career choice in the title of this book.
Yeah, absolutely. So how I grew up was, I guess, pretty typical in that nobody talked about money. We didn't talk about, what things cost, what people made. You don't ask that. So basically, I grew up in an environment where both of my parents had didn't come from money. My dad's mom was a librarian. My dad's dad was a welder. My mom's mom, stay-at-home mom, never worked a day in her life. My mom's dad was just like a middle-level hospital manager. And so both of my parents really had in their childhood their parents emphasizing the importance of education. You know, the whole work hard, you know, go to a good school so that you can get a good job, so that you can make more money to be able to provide for your family. It's the American dream, right? We're Canadian, but still the same concept of working really hard to be able to provide for your family. So both of my parents did that. They were very successful. My dad was a chemical engineer. My mom, you know, a self-taught computer programmer, software developer, and both of them were making multi-six-figure incomes. So, you know, when we moved to the U.S., we were living in, you know, a wealthy town in one of the nicest neighborhoods in the town. We had the big house, the 2 cars, you know, there's 4 of us, so the 4 kids. You know, we'd go on vacation every year. We had a pool in our backyard. We all did all the sports, all of that kind of thing. And there was never any question. We had everything that we needed and most of what we wanted. So when I was 21 and my dad passed away just like that, 47 years old, healthy, would exercise every day, just didn't wake up, it was life-shattering. It was, okay, well, we think we're okay, we hope we're okay. You know, my dad was the chemical engineer, and because he was so professionally successful, family members, friends, everyone would ask him advice on things. So he's not a financial advisor. He didn't have one. He was doing his own, you know, bought Apple stock because he liked, you know, Apple as a company. My mom's favorite restaurant was the Cheesecake Factory, so he bought Cheesecake Factory stock, that kind of thing. Sure. But so people would ask him, you know, oh, you think I should buy that? You think I should invest here? You think I should invest there? And then when my dad passed away in 2008, which is, you know, after the market crashed, you know, me and my mom are sitting there wondering, like, can we pay the mortgage? Can we stay in the house? What really is the financial situation? Mm-hmm. Because my parents were pretty typical in that you get married and there's a separation of roles and responsibilities. And my dad's role and responsibility was, you know, the bills, the household management, the investments, the making sure that everything was seamless. Mm-hmm. My mom's check basically just got direct deposited into the bank account, and that was it. Sure. So, you know, in the aftermath of realizing that, oh my gosh, even my parents, even with what they had, they weren't all set by any, you know, stretch of the imagination, that was really striking to me. And I just figured there must be so many other people, same thing. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not that they're not smart, there is an education piece. You're not well versed in the mechanics of personal finance, and you're trying to do it all yourself when you have other things to manage. Sure.
So it is a profession, and it's something that you spend time learning so that you can impart it onto other people. Yeah. And I think women are typical and have been known not to be prepared financially in their future, not really take a vested interest in their households. I am married to an Irish American man, and he has a specific value system around money. His parents are in their late 80s. They worked every day of their lives. They had pensions back then. Yep. They saved, they paid for everything cash, no credit cards. They paid for their homes, their cars, everything in cash. And they saved money. They had, you know, something to leave to their children, which they gave them while they were alive, so they would be able to, I don't know what that's about, but they had some value systems around money. Yeah. I mean, my husband gets up and turns the light off while we're, you know, watching TV. There's no light, you know. So, and I have a different value system, but he is the manager of the money. He is the kind that goes to the mailbox and takes the bills out of it, walks to his office, writes a check, and puts the check back in the mailbox. Yeah. Where I tend to take it and put it under the seat and hope that it finds its way out to get paid. So people have some real some learned behaviors around money, and women in particular, and they have been known not to be prepared, not to have the information or not use the information or rely on a man to take care of them. Even women who are financially sound, like your mom, who would hand the paycheck over and said, okay, he got this. And women want to feel, I think, lovely. They want to feel cared for. So I think it goes hand in hand with how we're kind of built. But it's not always wise. And I think your book, If You Love Your Family, Save Like It, really hits home. because it really was like, ouch to me. It was like, oh, maybe I ought to do something.
Yeah.
So want to talk about that, the women's role with money and where you see us headed when you're armed with the information?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the most frustrating thing to me is that what I've learned, I mean, I'm 27 years old, so part of what I've learned, like in high school and in college, is this huge shift, right? It's not, the man is the breadwinner and he comes home and he provides for the family, and, most women are stay-at-home moms, and the only way that you're not a stay-at-home mom is if your husband doesn't make enough. That's not the situation right now, right? Sure. We have so many women who are small business owners or who are business leaders, and they're, climbing the corporate ladder, and they're working, and they're balancing, being the working woman and balancing, being a great mom too. And dads are being in that same shift, right? Part of that same shift. The dad is not only going and working, but he's also, shuttling the kids to baseball or basketball. And, there's this meshing of roles where it's not just one person responsible for the finances, but even still, even though women are like equal partners now in some ways in terms of the household income, or even I've had so many women who I've worked with who are the breadwinner of the family, sure, there's still this weird thing around money, in that there's this, nobody wants to deal with money. Nobody wants to talk about money. Everyone likes to spend money, but nobody wants to, manage money. So it's really easy to like fall into avoidance behaviors as a woman, to say, you know what, I don't really want to deal with this piece. My husband can take care of it. I don't think that it's that they feel like they're incapable of taking care of it. I feel like it's just easier delegated. But because most people don't learn how to talk about money as they're growing up, with their parents, with their teachers, with their, boyfriend, girlfriend, and their spouses, because we're not comfortable having that conversation, because we feel so like how much we make identifies who we are, sure, and that it's like your income like defines you. It's an uncomfortable conversation. It's uncomfortable to sit down and to kind of like be accountable and have conversations about your finances with your spouse. So I feel like there is this like lag, and even though women in one area are, proceeding in leaps and bounds, sure, when it comes to the finances, the only times I'm seeing women, really want to take initiative with their finances and say to their husband, hey, listen, we need help, or we need to get on the same page, is after a divorce, after, a death or a disability or something that happens in their family. It's only after, everything hits the fan that women are saying, okay, you know what? I'm 50 years old, I'm 60 years old, now it's time to do something. And I'm hoping that, through my personal stories and my experiences with clients in the past and that kind of thing, that people can not only have, this is what happens if you operate that way, but they're also armed with the tools to be able to make it so that that's not their story. Sure. So the whole idea is to provide the education so that people can rewrite their story.
I would categorize you as a trailblazer. You're 27 years old and you have realized what you need to do to get the lifestyle that you want to live, and you've used your value system and you want to share that with others. There's a chapter in your book, chapter 2, and I love this quote. It wasn't from you, but Mark Cuban. It says, whenever I see people doing something the way it has always been done, the way it's supposed to be done, following the same old trends, well, that's just a big red flag to me to go and look somewhere else. And when I read that, I was like, that sounds like you. That you at 20, when did you start your practice?
22 maybe? Yeah.
22 years old, you said, I'm not going to go work for the big corporate company, but I'm going to teach myself and really perfect what I do and run my own business. It was a risk, and I'm sure that those around you gave you a little opposition reading your book, that some were for you and some weren't, but you said, I'm going to do this. And I see some of the things that you do in this book, and just, researching and learning a little bit about you, that is important to you to really blaze the trail. I'm wondering about education in the school system, because I think we can teach from birth, really, and as children grow, the importance of money and values around money. I think some do it better than others, and give their kids a foundation of saving. And you talk a lot about in this book about waste and where we choose to find our value in a new car, in a new home, versus making sure we're socking away money for our family. So I just want you to talk to the audience a little bit. I know I said a lot, but there's a lot to be learned, and I know that I know you have a lot, and particularly around education. Where can it fit into the curriculum in the school system? I think we need to. You're a trailblazer. I think that'd be great to bring that topic into the. I know we have some level of it, and there might be a career day at school. It's just not enough. Yeah, and I'm wondering, sometimes when we change things, then we change things, and do we really want to change things? You know what I mean? Because it serves some to have people disenfranchised, and that way we can charge more maybe and make some more money.
Okay.
That was a lot.
So to start, I think the first thing you pointed out was just, about risk taking and about going out and doing something that people don't typically do. So yeah, when I started out in building a practice, I chose to start out being affiliated with a company that didn't pay a salary. It started off, it was all commissioner fees only, and that was a risk that I chose to take because I wanted to own my own business, and that's something that I took out of, seeing my dad work so hard all the time. I just wanted to set myself up for the future. I don't have kids right now. I'm not married, but I know that one day I want to make sure that, if I do have kids and they have track meets or they want to play soccer, I want to be there. And I know that working a 9 to 5 doesn't always make that easy. So that was part of me going into business by myself. And yes, there was a lot of opposition. There were a lot of people saying, don't give up your $40,000 a year salary for something that could be zero. But that's the same when it comes to finances. I've had people approach me and say, something's just not working. I'm making X amount of dollars per year, and for some reason I cannot manage to save. Every time I put money in my savings account, something happens. There's an emergency. I feel like I can never get ahead. There's just something going on and I need help. Can I work with you? How does this work? And no matter what dollar amount it is, if there's a financial investment to working with an advisor typically. So, and I'll have, the conversation with a potential client, and they'll go back and they'll talk to their friend at work and say, I met with, somebody who's going to help me with my finances, and this is how they work, and this is what they charge. And oftentimes, there's that person at work saying, oh, you can do that yourself. You can Google it. You can figure it out. There are always people who will judge your choices.
Sure.
Whether your choice is, career driven, or your choice is to, get help by a professional. There are always people who will say, don't spend your money on that, do it on your own. But those people don't necessarily have a stake in your financial future. If you don't make that move, if you don't open the retirement account and put something in it, that person doesn't have to suffer when you don't have money at the end of the day. It's you.
Sure.
So you have to listen to your gut and your internal clock. So that's part of it. The other part of the financial education in schools, that piece of it is, I think that the hardest part is that the things that people need to hear and learn are the most basic concepts, right? Don't spend more than you make. If you take on debt, make sure that you have a strategy to be able to pay it off. If you want to go to a college that costs $200,000, what kind of job are you planning on getting? Because an art teacher only makes, $40,000 a year, or whatever the case may be. So having those conversations is helpful, but I think that people teaching that curriculum almost feel like it's too basic. You know what I mean? It's hard to implement something in school where it's just, write down your budget, figure out how much your first apartment will cost. Do you know how much an electric bill costs? Can we call the electric company and see, that it's $100 a month? This is how, do you understand how credit cards work? I've worked with people who are in their 40s who really don't understand how credit card interest accrues, or whether they should pay off the bill in full every month, and why, and how points work, and all of that kind of thing. There are complexities to all of these things that we talk about. And the hardest thing is that, the people who often want to teach that curriculum haven't mastered it themselves, so they kind of feel fraudulent. They feel like, oh, I'm telling you to spend less than you make, but I have, $60,000 in credit card debt.
Sure.
But the other piece of it is that you can teach somebody something in school, but then if they go home and they see their parents saying, oh, we can't afford that, or what'd you spend money on, or, we're going on vacation no matter what because I deserve it, or whatever. We hear all of these things growing up, and our value systems around money come from like our environment.
Sure.
So part of it is theory, but a lot of money is emotional, and I think that it would be cool to be able to put some kind of curriculum in schools to address that, to address like the psychology of money.
Sure.
Because I feel like it's more than just do this, do this, do this, do that, understand the mechanics. There's a psychology to it.
Right. And you are self-taught. You were on a track for to go into pre-med, and you said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to change course, and went from BU in a pre-med degree to UMass Boston, and came out debt-free, which is very smart, but you got your degree in spite of that, and then set on a course to build a client base. And I just talking to you about that, it kind of mirrors my experience in building Cape Cod's Conference for Women. It's through relational networking. It's through, pairing up with people and letting them know your values, your mission, your vision, and asking them to invest in you, and just simply share that with someone else. And I just want you to talk about how that worked for you in building your business.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, when you start with a company, like everything's sales, right? Everything about business is sales. But when you start with a company and you're getting coached or trained on how people build practices and how people build their businesses, most of the conventional wisdom is that you go to all of your friends and family, everyone that you know, and you hope that they will do business with you. And you hope that after they do business with you, they'll introduce you to other people that they know in order to build your business. And then there are other feeders, right? There's, cold calling, there's joining networking groups, there are all these other things. But really, it's like, how can I get a sale? And it's not really digging into the relationship business of making people, or not making people, but sharing with people really what you do so that they understand, so that they can really connect you with other people who might really benefit. It's more like, I need to make this work. I need to build a practice. So, let's get some quick momentum. Let's pick some low-hanging fruit. I saw very quickly, because I had worked since I was 16 years old. I worked retail, so clothing stores, basically. I worked for a couple of big names, and they were relationship-based. We would write our clients thank you cards. We would get to know their names. We'd call them and say, oh, hey, this dress came in, would you like to come in? I'd had coffee with several of my clients who I'd sold a dress or a jacket, or, it's insane that I was building those relationships as a teenager and as, a young adult. But I realized that the relationship is what continued the sales coming, and that made it a pleasant interaction. I could really add supreme value because I understood what the other person was looking for, their budget, everything. And they really trusted me and liked me and knew that I wouldn't try to oversell them something. So I wanted to bring that to my practice. So instead of going to everyone I knew and saying, hey, can you please do business with me? I literally made a list of every single person who I'd worked with, volunteered with, gone to school with, who I thought really wanted to see me succeed. And I said, you know what? My family is based in Canada. I don't really have a network out here. I'm young. Everyone who I've went to college with is out of school with student loans, broke, doesn't have jobs yet, and I need to start a practice, and I really want to help people. This is what I've learned in my training. This is what I'm licensed to do. This is where I see my business going in the next 1 year, 3 years, and I really need your help. If you know anyone, now that you know what I do, if you know anybody who has any questions about credit, debt, budgeting, retiring, how to buy a house, how to buy a car, anything, investing, send them my way. If I don't know the answer, I'll find them the answer. And I really just want to be a resource to you and your network. And the first 6 months that I was in business, I don't even think I made any money. It was a lot of cans of tuna. I think I mentioned that to you before the show. It was, how do I survive? I hope that this all works out. Maybe everyone who said that I shouldn't be doing this or can't do this is right. And then all of a sudden things started trickling in. People who I'd met with who really trusted me appreciated that I didn't try to push my business on them. I got a phone call saying, hey, my mom's getting a severance package from work. She wants to know whether or not she should retire. Can you help her with that decision? So everybody who came to me in the beginning was from referrals, from people who trusted me and now understood my business, and that was basically my sales force. And every single person that came to me as a referral then knew that that's how I do business. So after I did a good job for them, they went and said, oh, and by the way, you know, my sister, my friend at work, my cousin, they need help with this. Do you do that? You know, it was a conversation.
Sure.
And that's how I built my practice. And still to this day, it's all referrals and speaking.
Sure. And it's relational. People do business with those they know, like, and trust. And you really got to know some people, and they trusted you in what you do, and you seem to do a good job. So obviously it's paid off for you and continues to pay off for you. And its audience, it's this level of professionalism, of enthusiasm that we are going to have at Cape Cod's Conference for Women. We're going to bring you the information that you need to be able to go out and make some changes in your life, starting with Nicole's book, If You Love Your Family, Then Save Like It. She'll have the book at the conference, and she'll be on hand. And again, she is Nicole Peterkin of NicolePeterkin.com, an author, a speaker, and a financial planner, and our breakfast sponsor for Cape Cod's Conference for Women, I'm proud to say. So we have so much to share with you, and you with us, when you come down to the Cape again on March 10th.
Absolutely.
So I'm so excited about that. I just want to know, because I did discuss with you a little bit, and I want you to let the audience know what's your next move. I know you have a second book coming out, and you're published, and I just want you to share with them. If you didn't hear, Nicole is 27 years old. She's self-sufficient, self-made, and I think the sky isn't even the limit. Just reading your book and hearing from you, I know there's so much more in you, and I think that you, the good news is that you have the ability to share with all of us and bring us along a little bit as well. So that's really good.
Yeah, I mean, right now what we're preparing for is the second edition of this book, If You Love Your Family, Save Like It. It's coming out this spring with a new publishing company, Next Century Publishing, so that's really, really exciting. I don't know what my second book after the second edition of If You Love Your Family, Save Like It is going to be, but you know what, I've learned a lot. Even as we were going through the publishing of the first edition, there was so much that I wanted to share. There are so many, you know, life lessons and changes, and just as much as, you know, I learned from myself and my personal experience, I learned from the people around me. And it's so cool because once you put yourself out there and share these kind of ideas with people, you know, and your experience, people come back and respond to that and say, you know what, like, this is how I think about this concept that you brought up, and this is really cool, and this is how I feel. And there's an evolution, and sometimes like conversations that have arisen out of people, you know, reading something in the chapter of my book have made me think and made me change my perspective. So it's really cool to have a sounding board and to be able to have so much potential for the next thing. Yeah,
I know you open your book and you thank your sister, and you thank her for giving you a different perspective and looking at things a different way. Can you share with us about what that was about?
Yeah, sure. When I thanked my sister in my book, I think I said, you know, thanks for believing in my ability to just do it. You know, and that's, me and my sister are two completely different people. We grew up the same way, have the same background, but, you know, two different paths, right? Which one are you going to take? And we've both been successful in our own right, but we have really different opinions and really different concepts about, you know, everything. And specifically, you know, one of my main goals in this book was to be provocative, right? Was to make people a little uncomfortable and make people be like, ooh, yeah, I haven't done that either. Is that me? Is that, you know, am I that person that you're talking to? And when my sister read it, she was kind of like, ooh, you know, do you really want to call people that? Do you really want to say this? Do you really want to position it that way? And seeing it from a different perspective, seeing it from the perspective of somebody who, you know, isn't dealing in finances every single day and who isn't at the same, you know, point in her life and the same, you know, coming from the same background, it was really, really valuable. Like, it really challenged me because I had to really step up and say, you know what, I really believe this and this is why, or you know what, maybe I was wrong. So, you know, whether my sister agreed with or didn't agree with what I put forth, she was like, okay, well, here's my opinion. I'll read it. I'll give you a comment.
Sure. I can say the book did what you set out for it to do, because
Yeah.
I was convicted. I felt, and I thought, I need to make some changes. So I just wish you all the best. And
Thank
I
you.
really am excited that you'll be on Cape Cod on March 10th, 2016 at Cape Cod's Conference for Women to share with the women on Cape Cod about your book, If You Love Your Family, Save Like It, you
Yeah.
know. And I just wish you all the best in your upcoming ventures. And I just know there's so much more coming from you. Again, we're with Nicole Peterkin of NicolePeterkin.com if you want to look up more about her and take a look at the book. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.